Today, I want to talk about the Punisher. Specifically, I would like to talk about whether or not it's okay to like the Punisher. Because for as long as this character has been around and for as popular as he is, people just can't seem to agree whether or not liking him makes you a bad person. Last week, the trailer for the upcoming Netflix adaptation of The Punisher debuted, and a lot of people, myself included, were really excited for it. Others, not so much. A lot of people saw it as a glorification of all the wrong aspects of the character. The violent and the shoot first, don't bother with questions aspects specifically. In order to understand why the Punisher is such a divisive character, we need to go all the way back to his beginning, all the way back to Amazing Spider-Man 129 from 1974. In this issue, the man known as Frank Castle was a villain. Straight up, no questions asked. He was hired by the Jackal to murder Spider-Man. In recent years, co-creator Jerry Conway has been fairly vocal about his original intentions for the character. While he does believe that deep down Frank Castle is a good person, he represents all the worst aspects of superheroes. Someone who's perfectly okay with going down to the villain's level to fight them, rather than standing tall and rising above. Many fans and creators agree with Conway that the best Punisher stories are the ones that have him play against other Marvel superheroes like Spider-Man and Daredevil, to compare and contrast what a hero should be and what a hero absolutely should never be. But over the years, as the character became more and more popular and as he started to get his own solo series, a lot of writers and artists didn't portray him that way. They didn't portray him as a good man gone wrong. Instead, they simply portrayed him as a man who gets done. No time for stupid stuff like due process or the value of human life or anything like that. Shoot the bad guy, no more bad guy. Boom. Now that is a gross oversimplification, but you get the idea. People started to see him more as a badass vigilante in a world full of kiddie superheroes. He became less Death Wish the book and more Death Wish the movie. Actually, more Death Wish 3 the movie. Ask your parents what Death Wish is. And while the original incarnation of the Punisher might be well known to comic book fans, the more heroic version is what the general public thinks of when they think of this character. If you ask me, that's why you see the Punisher logo on the back of so many pickup trucks. But are these people wrong for liking the Punisher? No, of course not. You're not wrong for liking the Punisher. But I think it's important to remember just what kind of a character he is. He is a mass murderer. Now, yes, he almost exclusively kills bad guys, but in addition to just shooting them, he will torture them and find increasingly ludicrous ways to exterminate villains. Hell, the Punisher game on PS2 and Xbox made it a main gameplay mechanic. Kill bad guys in more violent and gruesome ways, so violent they had to make it black and white in order not to get an AO rating. But people like characters like the Joker and Jason Voorhees, and nobody really bats an eye. Why specifically is the Punisher a problem? Is it because those are villains and the Punisher is supposed to be a hero? Well, okay, but what about characters like John McClane and John Wick? Those two characters are unquestionably the heroes of their stories, but no one ever writes on a message board saying you shouldn't like John Wick because he's a vicious murderer. If anyone does tell you you're wrong for liking John Wick, then just stand up, turn around, and walk away. You do not need that kind of negativity in your life. I think ultimately it's because the Punisher is a part of a world filled with superheroes, and superheroes are supposed to be bright lights in darkness. And while yes, there are, quote, darker superheroes out there, they always find a way to come out on top, to wind up being better than they were at the start of the story, and ultimately better than the villains are. Wolverine, for example, is an acknowledged killer, both in the past and sometimes in the present, but the difference here is that it's always made explicit that he does not enjoy what he's doing. That's why he believes in Professor X's cause so much, and that he's trying to find ways to make himself a better person. And a character like Deadpool, who arguably has a much higher body count than the Punisher, often through much more gruesome methods, he gets a pass because that's considered a parody of characters like the Punisher. While Frank Castle himself is really just a cold, emotionless, damaged, broken, violent, uncaring individual. But that's kind of why I like him. I like that there's a character like this in the Marvel stable. It's so different from everything else. This is a character who has lost the ability to care and feel for anything. How do you bounce back from that? How do you try to be a good person when you lost everything, including the ability to care? There are those who say he only works against other Marvel heroes, but I don't necessarily agree. I think he works best played off against normal people. People who see firsthand the horror that is Frank Castle and how they react to them. To me, that's the most interesting stuff. Hell, the reason why the Greg Rucka run of the Punisher is held in such high regard is because it shows what happens when a normal person turns to the Punisher for inspiration. And spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. So yes, it is perfectly okay to like the Punisher, but I think it's important to acknowledge the less desirable aspects of the character. This isn't supposed to be an aspirational figure. This is supposed to be a figure to sort of feel sorry for. He certainly doesn't need or want your pity, but the point is, Frank Castle is not a role model. He's a cautionary tale, and I think if you remember that, everything will be okay. What do you guys think about the Punisher? Do you think he's a good character, or does it bother you that people like him? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. In the description below, I put some links to some Punisher books that I think highlight all the best aspects of Frank Castle from all different eras. I also put a link to a Punisher t-shirt you should buy because I personally think everybody should own at least one Punisher t-shirt. Makes a great instant Halloween costume. Of course, we have new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern is Wulff Den Live. So make sure you subscribe to see that. Click the bell icon so you get notifications when we go live. Like this video and share with a friend who's concerned that liking the Punisher makes him a bad person. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.